All right, this is a slideshow explaining absolute pitch on the treble clef staff. So we're going to go through the basics of reading music on the staff. On a staff, there are 5 lines from the bottom up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In between those lines, there are spaces, and there are 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now there are different kinds of clefs that tell you how high or how low, where you're at sound-wise. The first one we're going to look at is your treble clef. Treble clef looks like this. It curls around a line, the second line up. So not this bottom line, but the second line is where it curls around that. Okay, that line is also G, which is why we also call this clef the G clef, because it wraps around that G. So now that we know where G is, it kind of helps us get a gauge for where the rest of the notes are. We know that G is there. So in order to keep going with our letters, we first have to understand the musical alphabet. So it starts with A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but that's where it stops. Then we start back over at A. So if we were to continue up higher and higher, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on and so forth. Just keeps repeating. Okay, so if we know that G is over here on this line, we're going to step up using lines and spaces. We always have to count lines and spaces when we are finding letters on the musical alphabet. So the next space up is A. The next line up would be B. It shows you to the side there. The next space up is C. The next line, D. Space E, line F, space would be G, but we'll get there later. Okay, so then starting back at G, so now we're way up here at G in the alphabet, but we're coming back here. So this G is now here, and we're going to go down. It works the same way, still line, space, line, space. So we start on G up here, and we go down to F. Down another line, E, down, space, D, and then we would continue on to C, B, A. Once we get to A, we would start back over at G. Keeps rotating through those. Okay? So that's when you're on lines and spaces. Now, we know that we have to go line, space, line, space. We just talked about that. That also continues above and below the staff. So when you run out of places to put the letters, the notes don't stop. They keep going higher and higher and higher and higher forever. This staff only shows you a little bit of the notes in the world. Okay, so we're going to keep going up and keep going down, but we have to keep following the lines and spaces, which means that we have to create them sometimes. So F is on a line right there. So the next one up has to be on a space. The next one has to be on a line. We have to make that ledger line. The next one would be on a space, and so on and so forth. You keep just adding lines. Same thing going down. We see that D is on a space. So the one beneath that has to be on a line, a ledger line. The one beneath that's going to be a space. The one beneath that's another line. So you keep adding lines, but you always have to go line, space, line, space. So now if we're going to name them, we know that F is here and D is here. We're going to use our alphabet to go up and down from there. Okay? So above F would be G. Above G has to come back around would be A. Above A would be B. And then it would be C and D and so on and so on. From D coming down, we're at D, we come down to C. To that space would be B. To that next line would be A. And then you would circle back around to G, F, E, D, and so on. Okay, so you have your 4 lines and your 4 spaces in your 5 lines. We just talked about the notes as you walk up and down to them. So you can always use your musical alphabet, and that will get you where you need to go. As long as you remember that it's the G clef, so we start with that circling around G. You can always get where you need to go. We're also going to give you some more tricks, though, just in case you don't want to always count up and down, just for fast reference to memorize. So just like the lines and spaces, they count up from the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up. These sayings are also going to go from the bottom up. So the first one in treble clef is going to be with the spaces. And it's the one I remember easiest, and it is face in the space, because your spaces spell face. face in the space. That's your spaces. Now your lines also go from the bottom up. Every good boy does fine. So you remember both of those. If you don't want to count up and down, you can just remember those for quick memorization. But you can also count up and down. Whatever's easiest for you to remember is what you should use. Eventually, the goal is that you kind of have them memorized so that when you're reading music, you can look at a note and know exactly what it is immediately. So whatever's going to help you get there faster, those are the two couple ways that you can get to know your note names in the treble clef better. They continue up, just like we talked about. You still have to know how to use the alphabet, because even if you memorize this saying here, every good boy does fine, you get to that fine, and you still have to know how to stair step up with that alphabet. So again, you need to know both, but whichever way is easiest for you to latch onto is fine. All right, we made it to the end of explaining the treble clef note names. So now we're going to go to Google Classroom, and I'll show you what you're doing next. So you'll go to Google Classroom and click on the classwork for whatever your class. This is 9th grade, but you go to yours. Click on classwork. Then you need to find absolute pitch treble clef. Click on that. And then there's a quiz. Click on the quiz. Okay. Then there's a whole bank of things. You just pick the correct letter. Now, I'm going to go kind of fast just because for time's sake, to show you what happens afterwards. So you're going to keep taking the quiz. I'm just going to start clicking things now for time's sake. Great, so I got 15 out of 20. I want to view my report. It's going to ask for your name. You're going to type your name in there and click Sign Report. Once you click Sign Report, you can copy the link it gives you, go back to Classroom, and I'm in teacher mode, so I can't really see it, but there will be a spot for you to post your answer to this treble clef absolute pitch question. So you'll copy paste or control paste your link in there that you just got from here. You're going to paste that into your answer and then click answer or submit or whatever it is. And once that says that you've submitted it, then you're done. Thank you very much.